I'll sit with people and I'll tell them, you want to connect to your mom, dad, your dog, your pet, whatever. You have to raise your vibration to love. And if you can only do that by thinking of them or open a photo album of look at some happy pictures, that raises that vibration and you get out of, I call it a V, get out of the depths of despair. And I don't want to talk to anyone. Don't answer the phone. I'm just down here. Leave me alone. When we can raise our vibration, they can get in and we feel closer to them. And I give them advice too. I say, before you go to sleep and you're laying down, ask your loved one, right? So-and-so, I want you to be with me tonight. I want you to come to me in my dreams. And I say, think of something you love, put that in your heart, and now ask them to be with me. And they'll come to you in your dreams. So you're raising your vibration before you even sleep. Some people love their pets or a baby, or I love the beach. So I think of the beach, and it only takes a split second. What do I love? Okay, now I'm in a higher vibration. Now, okay, mom, come to me in my dreams.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Ask Julie Ryan Show. It's where we blend spirituality and practicality to help you live a life of purpose and joy. We have Krystal Parry with us on the show today. Krystal's an evidence-based psychic medium, Reiki Master, and bestselling author. She specializes in helping people in deep grief. I'm interested to learn about Krystal's journey and the techniques she uses to assist her clients. Please remember to subscribe, leave a comment, and share this episode with your family and friends. Now, let's go talk with Krystal. Krystal, welcome to the show. I'm so delighted you could join us today.
Oh, I'm happy to be here. Thanks, Julie.
You bet. What are the benefits of working with a psychic?
I think you get a lot of answers that you already know. I think it's kind of a neutral party, just helping you out and reminding your soul, I knew that. I think that's one of them. I mean, everyone goes for a different opinion, relationships or jobs or whatever, but then when they tell you something that resonates, it just validates you, I think.
Mm-hmm. So do you think we're all psychic?
Completely.
I do too. We're all telepathic. We're all communicating with spirit, don't you think? We just not aware of it,
Absolutely.
perhaps. Yeah. To your point, the validation thing, I think makes tons of sense that we're getting validation for stuff we already knew, so it helps us trust things. Do you agree with that?
I completely agree with that. I think we kind of tune it out and we think other people have the gift only because the world's noisy. You know, the dogs are barking and the phone's going off and the kids are crying and the dishwasher's loud and we forget to check inward where it's quiet.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we
good
want that
point.
external validation from somewhere or something else to tell me what I'm supposed to do.
Right. Good points. What's an evidential medium and why is that important?
An evidential based medium is someone who's bringing you evidence this is your person. So I always like to tell my clients, I'm not just going to bring through your grandma and she loves you very much. I'm going to ask her for certain things that this is your grandma, maybe a name, maybe how she dressed, maybe your birthday, certain things that are evidence to my client and the loved ones that have departed because it validates so much more for them, and resonates with them. Oh, yeah, that sign. Oh, that penny. Oh, that song. Yes, that's my grandma. And that's what I think of every time, or whomever, right? We're just using grandma. But yeah, just to give them evidence, it validates so much more. I think it has a little more oomph behind it, you
Mhm.
know.
Are you led which question to ask about evidence, or do you just ask a general question? How do you do that?
I let spirit tell me. Every reading is different. Every time I talk to someone, it's going to be different in what they're showing me and what they're expressing to me, what the client needs. I always go in with the highest intention to serve of the highest healing potential. What is it they need to know now? And sometimes I'm only sitting with someone for 30 minutes. So it needs to be good.
So, can you give us an example of a couple of things that have come through for a client that perhaps really surprised them with how detailed it was?
One that was just a few months ago, there was a young man that had passed on a motorcycle accident, and I was sitting with his parents, and I kept telling his parents there was something left at the scene of the accident. There was something left. He's showing me the ground left at the scene, and he kind of gave me details where it was, and they kept saying, "No, we've been there, we've been there, we've been there." Well, they came back a few months later, and they said our friends had gone to the scene and picked something up. It was a piece of his bike, and they had it in their pocket, and then they gave it to the parents months later. I mean, and that's just something that, validated so much for them. It meant so much that this was truth, that their son really was saying something for them.
Yeah. How do you find spirits communicate? Is there a commonality with the information that you receive? Do you find that they communicate in sentences and symbols, all of the above?
You know, it's funny that you asked that. It goes with your personality of who you were here. If I'm talking to someone and they were a big talker in life, it's a conversation, it's sentences. If it's someone who just, was briefly in and out of someone's life or a friend, they're coming in just for a split moment to say, "Hey, happy birthday," and I'm out. I'm going to stand over here. I'm going to be quiet. We have our same personality, so it depends on the spirit that I'm talking to, or if they want to catch up. Sometimes they're coming in with apologies and regrets and remorse. Other times they're saying, "I love you. I miss you. I'm excited about the baby to come," and talking about a new birth in the family or something. So it goes along with the spirit that's passed.
Mhm. I find that they come in with all of that. I always laugh and think, I think all spirits have ADD because they're like bebopping around. They don't necessarily stay on one topic. Sometimes they will if they have a big point that they want to convey, has been my experience. I'd love to hear your experience on this. But they may be showing you a jar of jam and then showing you a goldfish pond, like a koi pond, and then something else. And I'm thinking, you guys all have ADD, I
Yeah.
swear.
It's
Do you
rapid fire.
yeah, do you find that's the case as well?
Yes, and I tell my clients record it, the ones that sit with me, I say record it on your phone because you're gonna get it through a fire hose, and when you go home, you're gonna listen and it will make so much more sense. There's just so much, and sometimes stuff's random, and I just say, "Well, I don't know what that meant, but I'm gonna give it to you," and they'll come back later, and that meant something. So I just know if spirit's showing it, it needs to be shared.
Do you ever edit anything that you get from spirit?
I don't. I let them tell me the truth. Now, if it's gonna hurt someone in some way, I will broach the subject carefully. I don't hide it, and I tell people that I say what I see. When I got into mediumship, I asked my guides and angels to not show me the gruesome stuff. I don't need to see someone going through the windshield of a car. Just show me the car accident and show me that you had this accident. And that's enough for me. And the person I'm talking to already knows. I don't need to reverberate that or bring up some abuse in the past. They already know. So I'm trying to go in with the most healing um, situation that I can when I go into these events because that's what everyone's looking for, whether it's just me as a psychic read and I just want some healing, or I'm healing because my mother passed and my child passed and those sorts of things. We're all looking for a little bit of healing in this hard world.
Do you normally, when a client comes to you, do they have somebody in mind with whom they wanna converse, or do you just say, "Okay, let's see who's around you," and then you pull in the
I always give them
the
the option.
spirits?
I tell them how
Mm.
I work and I say I leave the floor open. Most times I have 3, 4, or 5 people that show up. I will zone in on the one that wants to talk the most, and usually that's the one with the most healing for whoever I'm with. And if they just say, "Yeah, that's great, mom's up there, I know she loves me, but what about me and my career and my love life?" I'll tap into them because that's what they want. But I always say, "But your mom's standing right here supporting you," those sorts of things.
Right. Do you find that they stay in family groups when they're in heaven? That's what I call spirit heaven.
Mhm.
Good Catholic girl, it's heaven to me. Or do you find that or do you find that they come together in a family unit when they're conversing with the person who's the common denominator, the
Yeah.
link to all
Most
of
of the
them?
time, yeah, you'll have, like, a grandmother and an uncle and a brother and a cousin that all come together, and then I'll see a friend come in and they tell me, "Oh, I went to high school with this person," they'll come in off to the side. I've often seen a mother and father on the other side or grandmother and grandfather step in together and then split, and then I ask them, "Why did you do that?" And they'll say, "Oh, we got divorced," or I passed before she did," or whatever to let me know to my client. They came in together, but they stand separate, and as soon as I say that to my client, they say, "Oh, yeah, that makes sense because it wasn't real connected before so and so passed," or something. There's always something to it.
Yeah. Do you think that that's really what takes place in heaven? Let's just call it heaven for lack of a better word, or in the non-physical, if you prefer? Or do you think that those spirits were soulmates and they hang out all the time together?
My feeling is they come in together for the client. The client would recognize them that way, and so they're doing it for the person I'm talking to. They're showing
That's
them
mine
that way.
that's mine too. I get the question a lot, "What are they doing?" Do you get that question a lot as
Mhm.
well? And, what have the spirits told you they're
Some of
doing?
them have told me they're working, they have jobs. Some of them been such a busybody here that they're still a busybody on the other side. Some of them have told me they're going to rehab. Let's say maybe they had a drug or alcohol problem here, they're working on themselves there. Or they've said that I've had a few young men have come through to say I'm helping the children as they come in on the other side because I wasn't the best, and I wanna help those coming in. So, sometimes they'll have a job, sometimes they'll have a duty, but it's something they pick. I've had, people that have, done some horrendous sins, and they've showed me separated from those in heaven and kinda holding themselves back from the situation as they heal.
Interesting. Do you find that the spirits with whom you converse are around multiple loved ones at the same time? Have you had the opportunity to discuss that with your clients, and how do you explain it?
Yeah, I just had this question yesterday, funny. But and I because this gal said, "Well, how can they be with me all the time and all the things?" I said, "Because time doesn't exist and they're with you. And not only that, they're with your niece that just graduated and they're with this other person in the family that's about to get married." And then her eyes get real big and, "Wow, that's crazy," but they can be anywhere at all places at all times, and that doesn't mean they're with you 24/7. You have a life to live. You're going to work, you got the kids, you got the soccer, you're busy, but they do wanna be with you, and what brings them in closer is that love, that bond that you shared. Right? So, yeah, it does kinda surprise them that they can be in all places at once. What surprises them even more is, let's say I have Uncle Joe here, and I'm talking to Uncle Joe, and then suddenly I see this dog hop up on his lap and describe the dog, and the person says, "I just lost my dog last month." "Well, Uncle Joe, how's your dog?" You
Dog.
know?
And that's really comforting to them, isn't it?
Completely.
Sometimes I find, and I'd be interested to hear what your take on this is, Crystal, that sometimes they get more comfort from hearing about their pets than they do from their dead relatives or loved
100%.
ones. Yeah,
And I think that, Julie, is because pets are unconditional love. They're not talking back. They might be barking and playing, but they're not talking back. They're not treating us bad in any way. All they want to do is love us. So when we lose that love, we have a hole in our heart that was just uh, sh- softness and grace and compassion without any boundaries or restrictions of how you have to act when you're around me.
yeah,
You know,
yeah. I know that that university-based research shows that talking with the spirits of loved ones and the spirits of deceased pets too is a really efficient way to help heal grief. Have you found that to be the case?
I have, and I have some clients that come to me only to talk to their pets. I'll do it. But I always check in to see who else is here. But I'll do that. They might not be connected to a grandmother that passed before they died, or and they might be young. I had a one gal that was early 20s and lost two dogs in a matter of 2 years. Didn't lose anyone else in her life, so this was her whole world. And when the dogs come through and describe all the fun things or the memorabilia she has afterwards, and is it okay to get another dog? They just melt. You see them just bawling, but melting and knowing it's okay.
Yeah. One of my best girlfriends, they put her dog of 15 years down a couple of days ago, and I was talking to her the day well, it was on Valentine's Day. They put her down. And, yeah, that was rough, but the vet came to the house, and they had a burial. Their city, which is a big city, let them bury her in the backyard, which I was
Wow.
surprised by that, but she was just so distraught. She said, "I didn't cry this much when my dad died, and I loved my dad." She said, "I talk to him all the time in spirit," but she said, "Oh my god, this dog's passing has just thrown me for a loop." And I
I
said,
really think it's that unconditional love, and they're so close to heaven the whole time, so when they're with us, that's all we're feeling is that
Mhm.
heavenly realm constantly. Once that goes, it's like someone slammed the door and turned on the cold air. All
Yeah,
that love is gone.
Yeah. Plus, your pet, in a lot of instances, is with you a lot more than your dad, who lives in another state with whom you haven't lived for decades. But your dogs, she said, my dog would even come in the bathroom with me. And I said, yeah, I don't know that that's all that uncommon. I think most of them would like to if you'd let them. But yeah, I tried to comfort her with that. And we talked to her dog. And I find too that when somebody's in deep grief, sometimes it's harder for them to connect, even if they can connect usually with whoever they want that's in spirit, in the spirit world. Have you found that to be the case?
Yeah, it's almost like there's an invisible block there.
Yeah. Because grief is such a low vibration. I think is what's going on. And I always say spirit doesn't communicate on the I feel crappy channels because the vibration's too low. And so it's helpful to have somebody like you to talk to help.
It is, and I'll sit with people and I'll tell them, "You wanna connect to your mom, dad, your dog, your pet, whatever. You have to raise your vibration to love, and if you can only do that by thinking of them or open a photo album of look at some happy pictures, that raises that vibration, and you get out of I call it a V, you get out of the depths of despair, and I don't wanna talk to anyone. Don't answer the phone. I'm just down here, leave me alone." When we can raise our vibration, they can get in, and we feel closer to them.
Right. I find too that sometimes it's easier to ask the loved one in spirit to come to them in a dream because our brains are relaxed and we go back to the factory preset spiritual level every night when we sleep. Have you found that to be the case as well?
Yes, and I give them advice too. I say, "Before you go to sleep and you're laying down, ask your loved one, right? So and so, I want you to be with me tonight. I want you to come to me in my dreams." And I say, think of something you love, put that in your heart, and now ask them to be with me. And they'll come to you in your dreams. So you're raising your vibration before you even sleep.
I love that. Ask for look, think of something that you love. What would be an example that you would
Some people love
recommend?
their pets or a baby, or I love the beach. So I think of the beach and it only takes a split second. What do I love? Okay. Now I'm in a higher vibration. Now, okay, mom, come to me in my dreams, right?
I love that. I love that. Think of love. I love what you're recommending for love. So tell us about your journey. Were you able to see spirits as a child?
No, but I was always very in tune, intuitive, knowing, precognition, premonitions, deja vu. Lots of things would happen when I'd go to school. I would just know going into school, my teacher's not going to be here, my friend's not going to be here. There's going to be an assembly, things that I couldn't know beforehand. I just always knew things and just thought everybody did. So I didn't tell anyone because everyone else knows it too. Yeah, it wasn't till I got much older and dabbled into some of the energy healing works and got into Reiki and saw some classes offered that I said, "This is my time. This is my chance," and dove in and I just gobbled it up. This was exactly what I needed.
What did you use to refine your skills? So you had innate intuition, let's say, that as a child you were recognizing that you knew things before they were going to happen. In your studies, what did you pick up along the way that were the most profound additions to how you were connecting with spirit?
Really learning more about my clairs and where my strengths were. So clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, which was my strengths and where do I always feel that and trusting that, right? And then studying with some of the greats, reading lots of books. But I took a course with the Shift Network, and I think you've had her on your podcast, Suzanne Giesman.
Yeah.
She's
She's a dear
she's a
friend.
beautiful soul.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just put out a book this summer, and she wrote a little blurb for me, but
Wonderful.
yeah, she just teaches it in a logical sense, and when I took her course, I said, "Ah, the door's just opened. There we are," right? So now I continue to practice and teach myself and teach others so they can learn it too, and it's what we already have. It's not like we're learning a whole new algebra or, major technology. It's what do you already have? Let's work with that.
Mhm. And do you find that there's a technique that you teach for everybody? There commonalities that you teach that everybody needs to integrate?
I ask them, "What's your strengths?" Right? I always will say to people, so I teach an intuition class as well. I always say, "Okay, so were you a visual learner? You may be clairvoyant. You may be seeing through your mind's eye. Could you just sense things walking into a room and knowing something's off? You may be clairsentient. So then once they raise their hand, oh, that one's me. Oh, that one's me. Then I fine tune to what they are and give them examples so they go, oh, yeah, that resonates, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Instead of
Yeah.
just making it broad. When it's broad, it kind of just gets wiped from our memory and think everyone else has the power besides us.
Exactly. I do the same thing. It's like, let's make it easy. We do not need to reinvent the wheel or make it complicated. It is how we process information. We all come in with that. We're all born the way that we process information primarily, and then those other skill sets come in as well. What did your family think when you started doing this as a career? Did they have any comments about it? Any opinion?
Well, I went in very intrepid thinking, "Oh my gosh, everyone's gonna judge, everyone's gonna have an opinion, da, da, da." And what came out of that was just support. Just like, "Wow, that's cool. Okay." I think a lot of them was like, "I don't know how to support this. This is weird, but all right." It was kind of that. And I think I was my biggest hurdle. I really do. Last year, I quit the corporate America world to do this work full time, and I struggled with that. I mean, I had just a upbringing. You work hard, you bring home the money, you get the paycheck, you have insurance. And when I decided to just throw caution to the wind and, okay, spirit, I'm trusting you, I really, really struggled with that. I had a lot of sleepless nights. I had a lot of belly aches. I had to just get over myself because I was already doing it. I had already been doing it part time for 5 years. I don't know what my big deal was, but I guess losing the 9 to 5 Monday through Friday was my big deal.
Well, and there's no guarantee with that either. I mean, people, I think, have a false sense of security with that until they or somebody they know gets laid off. And then it sometimes will be the catalyst to open their eyes and go, yeah, well, maybe I do want to do this other thing on my own because it isn't as secure as we think it is.
No.
And
I
so,
think I think with the, virus, with COVID, I think it taught a lot of people, "I'm gonna branch out on my own. This is uncomfortable. I gotta get out of my shell. I gotta follow my dreams." I think that pushed a lot of people.
yeah. Back to deja vu. You talked about that you experienced that a lot as a child. What do you think deja vu is?
I think we've already lived that bleep on the radar and we kinda rewind and now we're back and then we jump to it again and we look around and go, "This same setting, this same table, these same people, I've been here." Right? It's almost like we jump ahead and fast forward and then rewind a little bit to slow back down and relive it. And I don't honestly know what it is, but I've always felt we're doing it for others as well. Like, here's our timeline, we've jumped ahead, but, oh, everyone else didn't come on board at the same time, so we need to rewind and redo, you know, some of that.
Yeah, yeah, versus a past life experience where we've been there before, but I guess if we're jumping ahead and rewinding, then that is kinda like a past life experience that's happening simultaneously with this life. That's a brain twister, girl. When you think about that.
It is, and when you have those moments and you're feeling there, your body is all resonating in everything I've already been through. This same shirt, that same chair, that same person to my left, that same car passing by, right? You know it when you experience it.
Mhm. Do you think we live multiple lifetimes simultaneously?
That one I don't know. I've tried to meditate on that one. I truly think it's a one lifetime at a time, but I think we've lived so many that our memories in the cells of our body have completely merged, so it feels like multiple lifetimes, but I think we do one at a time to gain all the knowledge and all the lessons of what we're doing, but we've done so many that they've merged and it feels familiar or it feels similar to the life I lived when I was a man or I was a woman or I was a child.
Yeah. On the North Pole with the polar bears.
When I was
Mm.
Santa.
Yeah, exactly. You believe everybody can connect with their own inner voice and get guidance. How does one do that?
I get still. Get really still, and this isn't just meditating. When I teach my intuition class, I always like to tell people, when you get those hits, It comes in the moment. It's not something you can plan. I can't decide to say, what's my intuition going to tell me tomorrow at 9 o'clock? It happens in the moment, and we have to be still and wait for it. We want so many things, especially this day and age with, fast food, fast cars, fast everything. I want the answer right now. Why can't I just have it? My phone can have it on Google. Why can't I have it? But we have to wait because the molecules are still catching up of the question or the desire or what you want to manifest to come in, right? So we ask, we release, we go do about our business. I like to say, go do the dishwasher and go fold the clothes, and then come back into that moment and let it come back in moment to moment.
Yeah. How do you recommend getting still?
Ask the question or desire of your heart or what you need to do, and then go physically do something with your body. If you're not someone who can meditate, if you can, great. And it shouldn't be more than 5 or 10 minutes. All you're doing is bringing stillness to your body, hand on your heart, a breath on in your belly, an awareness of I'm manifesting this desire of this answer of whatever I want. Maybe it's job, career, relationship, right? Whatever it is, house, car. And then we just have to wait, and then we have to release it from that energy. It doesn't go away. It sits in our auric field, literally inches from us. People think, "Oh, I ask it, and now I have to ask it again, ask it again." I wrote in my book this summer, we have to stop pushing the elevator button. Here's the question, and I'm pushing and pushing, and here comes someone else, and they're pushing the button, and we're standing back waiting, and push the elevator button again. Just back off the elevator button and let it be. Like, let it unfold for you. 'Cause maybe the moment isn't here yet. Maybe it's 2 days from now that you get your answer. Maybe it's a week from now. Maybe it's in an hour, but you're so anxious and wondering why you're so tense and full of fight or flight, you can't get your answer. Just back off.
Do you think that's a learned skill?
I think it is, because this day and age is way too fast. Our kids are born with a cell phone in their hand these days and instant gratification playing a game, and that's all they know is right now. I do think it's now a skill that, I mean, if you went back to the pioneer days, completely different generation, right? But yeah, I think it is a learned skill, stepping
I
back.
I my first job out of school was in South Dakota, and I was a hospital supply sales rep based in Sioux Falls, so I had the southeastern quarter of the state, and their winters made Ohio winters that I grew up in seem like the tropics. And one of my hospitals was in De Smet, South Dakota, where Little House on the Prairie happened. And I lived in a condo building with a heated driveway because they got so much snow and we had underground parking, which was very common up there. And I remember driving up to the hospital and thinking, how in the name of God did these people do this in covered wagons and in a log cabin with just a fireplace for heat? I can't even imagine. I'm struggling with my heated driveway and underground parking. How did they do it? And to your point, just different time, different place, different set of circumstances. And yet we're we think, "Oh, we've gotta advance, advance, advance," and sometimes what I'm hearing you say, sometimes maybe we wanna go back and we think, "Okay, what did they do in Little House on the Prairie?" How did they rejuvenate themselves without any electronics? What did they do? How did they do it?
Yeah, stillness, a lot of stillness, singing, reading, singing to each other, making their own games, playing in the dirt, being outside. Just that stillness of the body and that calm that comes over your body when you know it's all gonna be okay. They didn't have it easy. We have socks and shoes and toilet paper. They didn't have those things, right? We have so many conveniences now. Most homes are filled to the brim. Every closet, every door, every room has so much stuff in it that we're over-consuming, and this is our normal. We buy bigger houses because we have bigger furniture, bigger beds, and big, big, big. Well, they had the most simplest of simple, and life was still hard. It was cold. They're hungry, but they kept plugging along.
Yeah, and paved the way for all of us. With all of our fancy electronics. Interesting. I was talking to a new grandmother the other day, and her first grandchild had just been born, and I said, "Don't you wonder how we raised our children without all the equipment?" She was laughing. She goes, "No kidding." She said, "Oh my goodness." It's just and I said, "I think of the cave families, the cave women, and when they didn't have anything. They had to put everything together from scratch. The dad had to go catch the animal that you could make the fur dress out of or the fur blanket or whatever for the baby. And oh my goodness, we could go down that whole rabbit hole. In your experience, does somebody that's a bit hesitant or doubtful about the whole spirit communication thing, do they still receive messages from spirit? Can they still connect with spirit? How does that work?
Oh, yes, and I always ask spirit to give me some big clarity, if they're gonna be a skeptic, and you can usually tell if someone comes in and, they've crossed their arms, "Let's see how this is gonna go," and by the end, they're leaving in tears or hugging me, or I can ramp that up. "All right, spirit, give me some big evidence. Give me something that's just gonna shock them." And spirit, I turn up the light, turn up the heat a little bit to validate that for them. And you know what? Honestly, though, if a skeptic is a skeptic, they're gonna stay that way. Sometimes they leave me and go, I don't really know about that." Or they'll go home and ask questions that I've said or ask family members and get a little bit of evidence, and they may still stay a skeptic, but I think what comes through is for their best and highest good. Sometimes I think what I say goes subconsciously in that might bypass the conscious mind, and they really resonate with it, and they feel better when they leave, but they don't know why, you know?
I always mention too, we can't control what somebody says when they're alive. Same. We can't control what they're saying when they're in spirit form.
Completely. I tell them that too. I can't make someone say anything. You can ask me
No.
a question, but I can't tell you if there's
Yeah.
no answer.
Yeah. This isn't Jeopardy. It's not, you ask a question and we're going to get the answer that is the only answer. And it may make sense to you at the time. It may make sense later. It may pertain to something that hasn't happened yet. And then that's pretty interesting when something arises that they go, "Oh, yeah, Krystal talked about that when we were together last week. I don't know what the heck she was talking about, but now I know."
Yeah, I've had a couple of women reach back out to me where I say, "Oh, there's a baby coming in your life. There better not be. My daughter's 15 and da 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 da," right? Or something will happen and then it will be a niece that is pregnant, or the daughter does get pregnant, or something happens where they're just like, "I can't believe you knew that." So
And isn't it
I
interesting?
always say, didn't. Spirit did. I told you.
Right, and I find it's interesting too because when that whatever it is, when that event happens, they know. It's instant that they go, "Ah, Crystal told me that." It's not like they think of it 3 weeks down the road, "Oh, Crystal did talk about that." It's instant. Have you found that to be the
Uh-huh.
case?
Sometimes I'll get a text. They'll send me a text or an email. "I just have to tell you, this just happened," and da 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 da. Or I love it when spirit will validate, "Oh, and your father's talking about a new car. Did you just get a new car?" Because most of the time I don't see what they pull up in if they're in person or if I'm on Zoom and their eyes get all big. "How did you know that?" And I'll like kind of describe, "It's the truck, it's the car." Or if someone's passed you, they've passed down their car or truck, or they're always surprised. I'm like, I'm listening to what they have to say. I I don't I don't know. I'm not that great, people. I'm listening.
How when you say you're listening, what does that mean? Describe that to us.
When spirit's telling me to tell them something. So
Do
if
you
I'm
hear
if
it
I'm
in
tapping
your
into
ears? Do you hear it as a thought in
Uh-huh.
your head?
I'll hear all of it. All of my clairs are on. I'll hear it clairaudiently. Sometimes they'll show me a picture clairvoyantly. I'll claircognizantly know, "Ooh, this is an old 1967 Chevy," right? I'll get all of it. My strongest one is the clair-knowing, the claircognizance, but all of them come into play. I even get the, clairalience where you taste. I've had, like, grandfathers giving me black licorice or smelling cigars. And sometimes they'll say, "No, I don't think my dad smoked," or da 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 da, or something will come through, right, and then they'll validate it later. It's just I've just learned to trust. I don't know what's coming through, but I know just to validate and give you the evidence this is your person, that I need to say these things.
Right. Do does the information come in instantly for you, or do you have to think about it for
No, it's instant, and sometimes 2 or 3 different things, like, layered on top each other, right? The ones that, shock me also shock my clients. So I had one reading with this young man, and his grandfather came in spirit and was talking about a coin collection. And it happened to be a group reading where there's a bunch of people in a room, right? And he just looked at me and looked down and looked at me and looked down, looked at his wife and looked down and didn't say anything. Later, he came up to me and he said, "Nobody knows about that coin collection, not even my wife. I had it before we got married." So I said, "Well, your grandfather knows."
Really? Exactly. I find too that sometimes spirit will answer before the question or the thought is even finished being thought. Do you
Uh-huh.
run into that?
Oh, completely.
Yeah. And how do you explain that phenomenon?
I think it's kind of telepathically, and it's just the speed of sound, you know? I mean, it's so much easier than to talk or even deaf people sign. It just takes time to do all that. The thought is there instantaneously. So just sharing that with them but I'm respectful. I'll let them finish their question even though I have the answer sitting here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or I'll start shaking my head no or bobbing my head yes.
Yeah. I do the same thing. And how I explain it is time doesn't exist in the spirit world. So they've already got the thought and they're responding.
You know,
And
that makes me think
yeah.
of something, Julie. I've mentioned that to my clients over and over. And what's come to me lately is because it doesn't exist on the other side, and here we are in this life, I just want a sign from my mom. Okay, she sent me a bird, and I want another sign, and tell her to give me another one. I say, look at this idea of time doesn't exist. She's over there for let's say years or months or whatever, and she's giving you all these signs, but it might take a whole month of your time to create this one sign, and you're like demanding, now give me another one, give me another one and she's doing her best, but you need to realize there's no time there. You're putting it on a timestamp, right? So it kind of goes the other way instead of, you know, it can be rapid. It can also be slow. You're wanting these signs, but take it easy. Let her get a chance to give it
Uh-huh.
to you.
Do you think that's because, and I've heard this from several people, that it takes perhaps more effort for a spirit to manifest something in our physical world because they're in spirit form? Have you heard that? Do you have any thoughts about that?
I do have heard that, and I think it takes a lot for them to manifest something or move something, but to give them a feather or a coin or something like that that's already kind of in our ethereal field, I think that's easier for them. I also really believe it's the soul. So, how was your mother in this life? You know, did she really believe in this stuff? And is she really going to work on the other side to give you these things? Maybe she is. Maybe she was someone who was very connected to the angels are very religious or whatever. And yes, she's getting that through, but you want to talk to your dad and he wasn't really into mediums and he doesn't know that he's going to be giving you a sign. You know, you have to look who you're talking to. How was their relationship with you in this lifetime? Were they in tune with that sort of thing? Even though you're asking, it might not be the exact thing that you're wanting. So I always say, ask them what they're going to bring you. Be quiet, be still, put your hand on your heart, think of something you love and ask them, what will you bring me in the coming days or the
Mhm.
coming weeks so I can see what your sign is for me instead of, I want you to bring me pennies, right? Or I need a red cardinal. That's kind of demanding.
Yeah. Do you ever have occurrences where you're not able to connect with a spirit or the spirit doesn't want to have a conversation with you or with the person with whom you're working?
It's happened on occasion, not much, but it's happened on occasion where I will just go to spirit and it gets silent. I can see who's standing here and I'll describe him to the person, but I can't make him talk. Like, your dad's here wearing a plaid vest, hat, mustache, and describing him, but he's not really saying much. So then at that point, I will say, he's just here to support you and stand here. It's kind of like, I don't know if dad was really interested in coming to the mediumship reading or whatever, but I will say who's here and who showed up. I like to say they don't get a voice any other way. If you're not going to a medium, you're not giving them that voice that, here they are in spirit in heaven. If you want to tap into that, you need to speak to someone who can bring that through if that's what you want. So I always check into spirit first, even if someone just wants a psychic read, because there might be a message that's here for them that maybe they need to hear as well as their psychic read.
Mhm. Interesting. You're also a Reiki master, and, you use that in conjunction with your mediumship to help others. Tell us about that. Tell us what Reiki is for those who don't know, how what your journey was to become a Reiki master, and then how you integrate it and use it
When I started, I had no idea what Reiki even was. I met this sweet little old lady, I think she was in her 70s, and she was talking about it, that she taught it, and I said, "Sign me up." So I went to her house and I took a class and I had no idea what it was, and they call it hands-on healing, but you literally are not touching the person, you're above their body as they lay on a massage bed, and it goes back to, hundreds of years ago in, Japan where they taught this system, and it's really just they call it hands-on healing of the universal life force energy that's coming from the divine through you to the person, and really, it's their life force energy that you're just helping and manipulating and moving and that sort of thing. Someone might come in pain or a sore hip or a bad knee, and you're just allowing that current to flow through you and spread throughout their body and allowing that body to receive it if they're open to, or, just have a relaxing moment if that's what it is. But in my work now as a medium, when I'm scanning someone, because 'cause they'll say, "Well, how's my health?" And it will just go a quick scan head to toe, and I'll say, "Oh, well, how's this hip?" Or, "How's that elbow?" Or I'll pop something will just flash to me, and I'll go deeper. I know that you're a medical intuitive, it might even work the same way for you. And I'll say, "Let's talk about that area, because that's the trigger area, but that's not bugging me right now, something else is, but this is what's causing XYZ," right? It's just interesting how it all pops together, and the more you do, I think the stronger it gets. Like I tell people, it's a muscle, all of it. Mediumship, Reiki, working on it. If you're doing the push-ups, you're gonna get stronger, right? So, it's all the same.
I agree. Practice is the key. And then the more validation you get, the more you learn to trust it. The same thing.
Completely.
So when you're working with somebody with Reiki, are you usually with them in person or do you
Mhm.
do it remotely as
Most of the
well?
time, it's in person. Most of the time. You can do Reiki remote, distant Reiki, but most of the time for me, it has been in person.
Mhm. Do you find that your hands or your body get hot or they can feel heat or other vibrations or
Very.
something?
My hands do get very hot, sometimes before the client even comes. After I've got my bed out and I'm setting the situation, and I'm setting my intention. And when I teach it, my students, I always get feedback from them. I have some clients that or some students that come back and tell me their hands go ice cold. So everyone's different. I think it's just the flow of our current. What does that mean for you? That's not your normal to have ice cold hands or to have hot hands or those sorts of thing or tingling, you know.
What do you think is happening when you're working with somebody and doing a Reiki healing on them?
I think their body is absorbing energy that they need that is coming from the universe, the divine, God, source. I think they're finally open to it, to make that appointment to come in and just, I need some relief. I need to know what this is and how. And sometimes it's not even the answer they want to hear, it's a different answer and they have to go deeper. It's a subconscious thing. You know? I can see something that has stemmed from a relationship that's causing you pain, or I see that you're really in a tight spot with work or afraid to speak because your throat chakra is blocked. You're holding back somewhere. Your lower back's hurting because of maybe some financial problems. It's all just that you again, it's so intuitive that each client's different that once I'm there, then I have the feeling. I can be at someone's feet and know something's going on with their upper left shoulder. It's just that quick to me. It's that zing to say, "Oh, go up there and check that."
Mhm.
Ask them about that.
Do you find that you see things or you feel things? Your direct knowing that you talked about before,
Yeah,
is that
it is the
coming
direct
in?
knowing that I'll get, "Oh, I'm at the feet, but I know I need to go to the shoulder," and then I'll go deeper. Sometimes I'll see a color. Other times I will just clairsentiently feel a vibration, or I'll need to put a crystal near that person, or I'll need to really hold space there for a minute while it percolates that energy in, and do some manipulation of energy there. But they always feel lighter when they're done. Sometimes, as the practitioner, you walk away going, I don't know if I did anything or not, right? It's just the truth. And even when I teach my, students, I'm like, "Sometimes you're gonna feel like you didn't do anything, but that person got off that bed going, 'I feel so much better,' because their body's absorbed it. It's not your energy that's absorbed it, so you're not feeling that, it's going through you. You're like the vessel."
Yeah, that's a really good point. And it's been my experience that nobody heals anybody else. We are the conduit spirit working through us and with us to help them heal themselves. And it's up to them whether they integrate the healing or not. Have you found that to be the
Yes,
case?
and do they wanna absorb it? And maybe they
Yeah.
can only take a little bit at a time today. Maybe it might be too overwhelming for them to take it all at once. This is serving a purpose for them.
If that's the case, is there like an IV bag of energy waiting to be infused when the time is right in little dribs and drabs? Or
I would hope so. I like to send people away with tools and techniques they can use. Maybe a quick meditation, the hand over the heart, maybe a book, maybe a saying, I have a deck of oracle cards I created this summer. Maybe there's something off a card that I give them, but I like to give them something so they don't feel powerless when they leave. How can they feel empowered, help themselves heal? Because in the end, we are our own healer. We do it ourselves.
what is the benefit that you found? I've never used oracle cards or pendulums or any of that jazz. And I'm always fascinated to hear what you think the oracle card really does for a client. How does it help? What's going on with an oracle card? I've seen them. I've seen plenty of them. They like have a picture of something on them. And then some of them there's hidden meanings. Explain what about the oracle cards that you use, and then how do you believe that they're helpful for you and for your client?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I've seen a million different cards too. I created my own deck and they just have little sayings on it. I'll just flash you one. I don't know if you can see it. This one says superpower. My deck is nature scenes without any numbers, without any concealed notions, and just a little saying. So this one says superpower and it's referencing intuition. Your ability to tap into your intuition, your soul, and your higher self is your greatest gift. Pursue your desires with courage and self confidence. So that would just be one of the many, right? But if I give them that card and whatever came out of their session, it kind of enforces that with this little saying. Maybe they can put it on their bathroom mirror or the fridge. And, oh, well, yeah, I need to do that. I need to check in today. I have another one that says release past fear. So maybe they needed that one. I'm really stuck on something that was fearful or I want to deny or hide or I feel guilty. And maybe this is just that reminder. But I do agree with you. I don't understand all the oracle cards either. There are hidden messages or turn the card upside down. And what does this mean? That's not me.
And the tarot too, they got the Joker and they got the serpent and they got the whatever, and I just think, "Okay, just tell me what it means. I don't need to study that. Just tell me what the bottom line is that you're getting."
And those that use it, it really is another modality for them and just, another gift. Here, oh, this is what this means because you pulled it.
Yeah, do you let your clients pull their own cards or do you pull them
I
for them?
do. I want their energy in it, not mine.
Okay. And so then they'll pull a card and then you may get let go of your whatever.
Yeah, release your fear or something.
Yeah, interesting. How important is it for somebody to set an intention prior to a mediumship or psychic reading?
Oh, every minute.
And how do you do that?
Yeah, for them to come so for a client coming in, they just need to set the intention they wanna connect to their loved one, and at the beginning of every session, I always go through just a little two-minute thing. We are setting the intention to invite your guides, your angels, and your loved ones here for the highest good. I always say that every single time, and it gets them in that state of mind, and I ask them to um, elevate themselves to a higher state of love, right? What do we love? Let's put that in our heart and invite them in. So it's bringing spirit down on their level a little bit to us and it's rising our vibration so we can meet in the middle. So I can actually be that bridge and that conduit, like you said, to help this beautiful reunion happen. But them coming in to set that intention of, I want to talk to my mom. I want to talk to my dad. I want to connect. Or I really want to know, should I take this job or this job? To come in with that intention is 100% what you need to do. And when you're learning, it for my students that take mediumship or take Reiki classes, your intention is everything. Our mind is so powerful. I mean, they've even seen this with our heart coherence, how powerful the magnitude is. You set that intention in that area and it just exuberates everything, right? So intention is everything.
When somebody comes into a session, and we touched on this earlier, they don't really believe in any of this stuff. And they're like, yeah, yeah, whatever. And so can you just use your intention if they're not willing to set an intention? And do you need them to set an intention in order for you to communicate with their loved one in spirit and or to facilitate healing?
No. No, I don't need them to set their intention, but I do need them to raise their vibration to a state of love, so I always just ask them to think of something, and usually I can feel a shift. I always ask them to take a big breath and exhale longer, so if I can't feel that on that first breath, I'll say, "Okay, let's take another breath," and usually then people will resituate and, try it again, and then it will shift. There's just some manipulating you can do right in the beginning to get them into a state of, "All right, let's see what this woman's got." Yeah, let's see what this woman's gonna talk about.
Right. And I don't have it hardly ever, but I've had it a few times over the years where somebody's come in and kind of like, you got to prove this to me. I go, well, really, I don't. We can talk about whatever you'd like. You want to talk about football or the weather or whatever, but I really don't need to prove anything to you now. If you want to participate, that would be lovely. And if you don't, that's fine too. We can talk about whatever you want.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how that just disengages that big wall of, "Well, you gotta show me." Yeah, and it's just they're in fear. They're in fear.
We've been programmed, society and church and religion and everything's been programmed. Don't talk to the mediums. Don't do this. Don't do that. There are soothsayers. And I always go in with the highest healing potential. So none of that even gets relevant in any reading I've ever done. It just doesn't come up.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting when that happens. Why do we incarnate?
Oh, I think it's for the lessons. We choose all these lessons. I want to choose how to be independent and strong and capable and brave. And whether I got to do everything myself or whether I'm going to be depending on other people in this lifetime, maybe I need to work with a team, but maybe I need to come and just learn my own inner guidance. I think we incarnate for the lessons.
Well, how much fun to get to talk to you and compare notes about how you do things and what your clients receive from your talents and your skill sets that you've worked so hard to develop over the years. I can see why they enjoy working with you. How can people learn more about you and your work?
Oh, they can find me on my website, blossomingmedium.com. And I got that name from spirit when I was just a baby medium, but really what it's developed into is I help others blossom because I teach and I want you to learn and I want you to grow. I want you to blossom. So it turned into something a little more valuable. So blossomingmedium.com. They can find me on Facebook, Blossoming Medium Krystal Parry. They can find me on Instagram. It's Krystal.Parry37. That one's I'm not real popular on there. I do have a YouTube channel. I'll put some videos out here and there. Not real consistent, at least not yet, because I've been very busy since I quit my corporate job. This is a full-time job. So, and right now, if you was to get a session with me, it's about 3 weeks to a month out.
Okay. And spell Krystal and Perry because there's several ways to spell both.
Krystal with a K, Krystal, and Parry with an A, Parry.
All right, terrific. And we'll put all of that in the show notes too.
Thank you.
All righty. Well, everybody, we've given you some fun things to explore with Krystal's techniques and the work that she's doing. So while you're doing that, we're sending you love from Sweet Home, Alabama. Mwah! And from Utah, too, where Krystal is. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody. To enhance your spiritual journey, click on one of the videos below and remember to subscribe, leave a comment, and share with your family and friends.